Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is life coach and LOA teacher Joel Elston.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Before we get started, I let you know, Joel, before we got going, but I want to let the audience know that former co-host Alex Standy sends her greetings to everybody and so she's hoping that everybody's doing well and sends her best wishes. In fact, she's going to try to do a return visit at some point in the near future. So hello from Alex to everybody out there. And as for you and me, we were kind of hacking over the title for the show that Jen gave us, and we were trying to kind of give it a little bit of a twist and came up with something that it has potential, I think. You know, if I don't become too detached from it anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's it. Oh, wait a minute. I gave away what the title is.
Yes, that's it. But, focus, attention, distraction, the categories. And, the ideas for me is, the way my brain works, I have plenty of attention. It's just, where do I place it?
Mm-hmm.
I never believed, having ADHD, that stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADD is attention deficit disorder. I don't have a deficit of attention. I have an abundance of attention, and my problem is, where does it go? It's always been misnamed because the ADHD kids or ADD kids, their problem is they're distracted, they're focused on the wrong thing.
Which basically means they're focused on something that the teacher or the administrator wants them to focus on, but it's not the thing that they're supposed to focus on that day. It's supposed to be this other thing that the teacher wants you to focus on. What are you doing? You're supposed to be paying attention to what I want, not what you want.
Yeah, so a lot of times, kids in general, boys in particular, tend to have that need to run around and touch something hands-on, needs to understand and stuff they're fascinated about. You ask, one of the things working with young, and I don't work with that many young kids, but occasionally a young one will come in. And if you work with kids, you need to have a favorite reptile and separate from a favorite dinosaur. Separate. They're two separate things. You're going to get that question. A favorite movie. They have a list of questions, and the thing is, they get hyper focused on these things, so they'll be able to deep dive. If you ever talk to a 7-year-old who has a really big interest in dinosaurs, they will school you on things you never knew.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right. And with extreme excitement. So it's one of those things that the attention is an abundance of attention for many people, but distraction and focus. And so when it comes to life, a lot of people are very hard on themselves because they think, I can't focus on what matters and I'm distracted. Now, distractions can be a problem because it does keep you, something like people scrolling on their phones all day is a modern day distraction that we didn't have 25 years ago. And that's a big time waster. In fact, if any of our audience members want to kid themselves or figure out how bizarre this is, go on your phone and look at the time on each app. It's recorded whether you realize it or not, and it is outrageous, hours sometimes for people. And the distraction from that, while social media can be fun, it has no real value as far as just getting stuff done, because you get distracted and most of the scrolling is nonsensical and you're chasing rabbit holes, So the being distracted and learning how to manage your focus, and focus is something like you can improve your focus. It's like anything, you can train yourself to focus. It doesn't come easy for a lot of people to focus on one thing, but you can train yourself to focus. And that's understanding that, because most people, if you ask them, they'll say, well, I need to get focused. I need to get busy. I need to get this done. And then you ask why they haven't to this point. And it's usually with ideas of distractions or perception of being busy. And
I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah,
I also, every time that I think about ADHD or ADD, I think about the whole concept of not paying attention to the right thing. That was the phrase you used, not
yes.
the right thing. And whenever I think of that, the very first thing that always comes to my mind, and I mean every single time, is who decides what the right thing is. And I don't say that just to be, contrary or whatever. I think there's a very serious aspect to that, because so much of what people consider to be the right thing is what somebody else thinks is the right thing, because they are the teacher or the employer or the administrator or the person who knows better than the person who's making the decision. And I can understand there are certain cases where that's actually useful. There are cases where that's actually valuable. But it also raises in my mind the bigger question: why is the person who is being held accountable in that way, why are they even involved in this thing that they don't want in the first place? I mean, if they're being forced into it, not a lot they can do with it. So okay, you have to kind of adjust to that. But if it's something where you have control over, and you find yourself being forced into paying attention to something that really doesn't serve you, what the hell are you doing there?
Well, and that has, I go to like employment situations, and one of my pet peeves, and I never say anything, but I just observe, if you're ordering something at a fast food restaurant or something, and the person in front of me, I want them to take my order. I want them to be focused on me, get my order. One of the more annoying things to me is when they're involved in conversations, like there's a problem over here and they're trying to talk to the other. It's like, well, take my order,
Mm,
and then you get over there, because so in jobs in general, your employer, since they're paying you money, they're going to tell you what you will focus on. And
mhm.
if you don't focus on it, then you don't, eventually that's going to not be where you work. And so,
Exactly. Oh, and that ties into what I was saying
yeah,
earlier. The question that's in my mind at that point is, are they in the right place to to be doing the work in order to get paid? Because that's why they're there. They're there to get paid for doing this work. Is that
right.
the right place for them? And it may very well be the right place for them. If it is, then it behooves them to do what they need to do in order to focus properly.
Well, yes,
But
but
if they're in a place where it really isn't the right place for them, what are they doing there? Why are they staying there? That's the question that's in my mind. Not why are they getting in trouble? Why are they staying in a place where they're really not invested? It's really not serving them. I mean, they're getting a paycheck, but it's really not one that they want. What are they doing there?
well, I have example that is one of the areas I work in a lot. So uh, here's the concept. You have a person, this one guy, he's in this, basically they construct data centers across
Okay.
Virginia, and that's a big industry
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
hot these days. Yeah,
Yeah. And it is about production, getting it done, because they have so many contracts to do that. So
absolutely.
he works 6.5 days a week.
Wow.
He hates it. He is told, it doesn't match his brain at all, but he makes $190,000 a year.
Ah, yeah.
So,
Okay.
so his dilemma is, and this is a very narrow focused job, particularly for data centers. So the only other jobs that will pay in the general area with his experience are the exact same job with a different contractor or
Right.
contractors.
Right. Right.
So it wouldn't be an improvement. Now, what he wants to do is he's always loved to learn. He wants to maybe be an educator or a teacher at some point,
Okay.
which is great, but
But doesn't pay in the same
it's
ballpark at
going to
all.
be half the you're
Right.
going to be half that. So what we have to do in those situations, you ask the question, why is he there? He's there for the $180,000-$90,000 a year. That's why he's there.
Yeah.
And he hates it.
Yeah.
But you, at some point, you have to decide the priority of
Yes.
what that is. So he has, he's taken steps in what we're working on. He was a few credits short of his bachelor's degree, and in
Hmm.
Virginia they have if you have a bachelor's degree, they can get you teaching, and then you earn your teaching certificate as you go. That's a program they have here. It's a really good program.
Okay.
So step one, before anything happens, he got accepted into a university to finish his degree. So he's doing that, and he's still working this other job, but he's when is he going to have time to go to school? So he's trying to make room for that, and so he can get school done. Eventually, he's also saving a lot of money. So we're planning on that, but it isn't, he can't snap his fingers and make it happen right now. He's going to have to reduce his cost of living. He's going to have to save money, and he will have a 6-month period of time where it'll be probably no income, and then he'll make it through, and then he'll be accepted, start school, and it isn't that teachers make terrible money, but it's the idea the starting teacher isn't, they're here, and I think it's 70 grand a year is what they start at. Good money, and but the process, you ask the question why. Well, that's why. And so you then have to working on what matters most. Or is your happiness more important, or is the financial stuff? Most people early in life opt for the financial gain. I'll put up with it because I can have the nice house and have the nice this, have the nice that. And then eventually, when you feel like life, like he says, I don't have a life at all. He said, I work. I work, I pay my bills, I go to work, I pay my bills, I go to work, pay my bills. And the schedule he has, he'll do this. He could, if he didn't leave the job, which he eventually will do, there's 5 years of work on the book. So he has 5 years. That's not going to change.
He's locked in. It's there if he wants it, and if he's ready to do the work. The question is he ready to do the work?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So the job requires him to do stuff that really is not against his morals, more against it doesn't match his brain. It's that logistical management of stuff that's just which would drive me crazy as well.
So probably not all that different from you working for your father's insurance company.
It's same theory. When I worked for my father's insurance company, he's paying me, and I needed to focus on selling people insurance. That was my focus, right? And my brain thought, first of all, that was the stupidest thing in the world. And to this day, I believe there's nothing worse or more stupid than insurance. It is ridiculous. But it isn't necessary.
Apologies to all insurance agents out there who might be listening in. But
I mean,
there it is.
My dad did it for 50 years and did really well. But Lord, that was not my wheelhouse. So it didn't work for me. In fact, it ended really badly there. But I was trying to force myself into something to pay attention to that I just didn't have. And this is before I was diagnosed with ADHD, so I didn't even really understand why I couldn't focus.
You didn't have a clear idea of what was causing all of this.
Yeah, and Dad used to ask me, he said, "You're just, you're focused on everything but this."
Which, by the way, was a clue. It's just that we didn't know it.
We didn't know the terms back then, and he was right, because I wanted to do anything but that, and it was just this. It was never good, and I'm not being negative. It didn't match my style. I wouldn't be. There's people that do great at insurance. They love it and they make a really good living, but it wasn't until I got into what I'm doing now that I found my wheelhouse that matches me, and everything that I get to study and research ideas, and I can make them apply to my clients. And I view every client that walks in the door as a puzzle, and I want to be able to. So I see all of that. So my attention is on the things that need to be there because I start figuring it out. That's good. So the distractions in my life today are minimal. In fact, I have to make myself be distracted sometimes because I can get too hyper focused on just work, and and sometimes get unbalanced in that area too.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, that's part of what we learn as we're going through life. As we're growing up, because like the growing up process never really stops anyway, because we're constantly growing. And in the process of doing that growth, we're faced with questions of, well, okay, how much really is too much work for me? Is there a limit? Yeah, it turns out there is a limit because I'm responding negatively in ways A, B, and C. And if I keep that going, I'm going to lose this wonderful gig that I got going. So I got to make a decision. What am I going to do here? That's the kind of thing that we were constantly faced with. And one of the reasons I brought up the idea of what the hell are you doing there is I was tying it back to my own experience, because my own experience was I had worked for a number of years in the IT field. And the reason I'd worked in the IT field was, first of all, it paid better than most of the other fields that were available to me. And also I was good at it. There was only one thing that was missing. I didn't really love it. I mean, it was kind of interesting, but it wasn't like, oh, I gotta wake up in the morning and I can't wait to go, set up a new server. It's like, no, that was not at all what I really wanted to do. And ultimately, I was making good money doing it, but I I was tearing myself up in order to do it. I could feel it. It was almost as if my soul was being ripped apart. Now, it really wasn't, but that's kind of like what it felt
No,
like. It felt
I
like I was
get
being
that. I
torn
get
into
that
pieces.
feeling when you're forced to, when you feel like you're forced to do something that isn't, there. I think that's why so much job dissatisfaction and all that
Exactly.
happens in life, because a lot of people pursue that money, and and then, which is what we're taught to do
Yep.
often, and then they find out this doesn't make me happy. That's where it goes sideways.
Exactly. That's precisely what happens.
Yes.
Now, I also took, as you know, I'm really good at over planning things and taking things to extreme as a result. And in my case, I did make the leap. I decided to become a full-time entrepreneur, started my web hosting and design business, and did okay with it. Not great for the next 6 years. And then all of a sudden, a little thing called the 2008 financial crisis came along and wiped my entire business off the books.
Yes.
And so now I found myself in a situation I never thought I'd be in, trying to reproduce an experience in a field I didn't like, to rebuild a business that I didn't really get excited about, although I was more excited about it than my previous corporate job, and not get paid for it. That, let me tell you, this is not a winning combination.
No, not at all. Not at all.
This is a combination that, I mean, the earlier one was trying to tear me apart. This one was shredding me. This was shredding me up and down, left and right. And oh, by the way, it led me to start a podcast called LOA Today, because I was drowning. I couldn't figure out how to get out of this thing. So that's why this is a really important topic from my point of view. And one of the things that I struggled with was, I realized early on, especially with the shows that you and I did in like the second and third year of the podcast, we would talk quite a bit, because there was stuff that I wanted to talk about. We would talk a lot about trying to find your passion in life, because I couldn't find mine. I had no idea
Right.
what my passion was,
Right.
and I didn't know I didn't even know how to find it. I didn't even know how to go about getting it. And even if I could think of something, the only things I could think of were things that I couldn't figure out a way to make a living off of.
Right.
That was hell, let me tell you.
Yes. Yes.
I think you figured that part out.
Absolutely. Yes.
It was miserable. So, when you're trying to find what is right for you and you don't know what is right for you, that is almost as bad as working a job for good money that you don't like. It's even worse because you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
It's
And that's the, as we move toward that, finding your passion or purpose or direction, or the stuff that that becomes, especially as we age. Earlier, it's just, we got to pay the bills, and then it's
yeah.
like, then the philosophical questions start kicking in your 30s and 40s, like, what is this? What am I doing? Am I, and we ask the question very deeply, and then life doesn't make a lot of sense when you describe someone who, this Dominion Energy is our electric company down here in Virginia, and they're a gigantic company, and they're based here in Richmond. And I have several clients that work for them. And so one guy said, I went to college. Everybody wants to work for Dominion, so I got out, got a good job with Dominion, made good money, worked my way up. And he said, I never liked it, but the money was good. And I tell everybody I was working for Dominion. Well, he's worked his way up in the company. But he said, I have a lot of money, my family's secure and all that now, but I don't think I did anything. I literally, and he said, I wasn't even producing the electricity. I was in the middle of the bureaucracy of it all. And it was just this thing that fed on itself. And it's just the idea that I was doing this nonsensical work, and I am stuck here till I'm 65 years old to get fully vested and get my money. He said, the system, there's many days I feel like I have had a wasted life.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that feeling. I know that one real well.
Yeah. And he said, yeah, I got a couple $1,000,000 saved back, and I got some stock stuff. I'll retire when I'm done. I'll have huge retirement thing going on. And he goes, yeah, and then I'll live. I have 20 more years of good life, and he said, I get it, but he said, I wish somebody would have shook me back in my 30s and said, do something you're passionate about, and make a living and be able to. And most people that become really successful and doing what they love usually fail at one of those jobs once or twice, and they said, look, I got to go do something, and they develop it on their own.
There's also another factor that comes into play here, because I'm thinking again about my own experience, and I just kind of gave a quick tour through it. But I mentioned how IT was never something I was passionate about. And that was true. I really wasn't passionate about it. There was nothing really fun about it as far as I was concerned. And then the hosting and design business fell apart. I've been doing some programming, but I'd never gotten formal training in it anyway. I was at a point where I couldn't afford the formal training, even if I wanted it. So it wasn't really an option on the table because I didn't really want it. And I kind of left all that behind at one point, eventually getting into other businesses. In the last couple of years, AI comes out. And all of a sudden, I'm really interested in this thing, and I'm playing with it. And literally today, Joel, I mean, this year, out of where are we now? We're like roughly around day 300, something like that in the year, a little bit past that. I probably spent, I'm going to guess, 260 of those days working on the AI project.
Wow.
Now, this is in a field, IT, that I have no passion for up until now. Wow. So isn't it interesting? Something that I couldn't have cared less about for most of my life, all of a sudden I have a passion for it.
Yes.
And one of the things I think that made that happen is I looked outside. I stepped away from it. And in the process of stepping away from it, it gave me a perspective that I never expected, that showed me another side of the field I'd never thought about. In fact, it didn't even exist. Well, it did exist, but it didn't exist in the way that it exists today. AI has been around as a concept and as a field to work in for probably 30 years. But as a major thing, it's only been around for 6 years, something like that?
Yeah, it's really, especially the last 2 or 3, really went crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was never on my radar.
Yeah.
Even when I heard about it, and I had heard about it, but it just seemed like one of those stupid things.
Yeah. And I get that. And that's the, you change, your perspective changed, and you found something within an industry you didn't really care about before. But this is, while it's the general overall industry, then, you found an area that excites you. So now you're all in.
Exactly.
And it's, like this reminds me of another story about a client years ago. He was working on a construction site, and he was one that he was doing estimation. He did the estimation of projects and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Very detail oriented.
Yep.
He hated it, and he had to be very precise. Get a bunch of information. Right. You run it through the computer, and then you do the papers and prints and all that. And it's a very detailed job, and you have to estimate lumber costs, everything, and there's, of course, computer programs that help with that, but it's very detailed focus.
Yeah.
So good money, but he didn't like it. And so one day he was there doing an estimation. He said he was always amazed at the people that showed up on the job sites. Most of the people are independent contractors. You had the roofers, you had the electricians, you had all, and it was really cool to see how they all worked in harmony and when they supposed to show up. And so this one guy shows up, and he did this stuff where the blow-in insulation, you had the truck that you blow in the insulation, and he got to know the guy, and the guy's like, the guy makes a fortune. He makes a lot of money blowing in insulation, and it takes literally 15 minutes to do a house. He gets like $1,400. It's this wild thing, and he'll knock out a bunch of those in a day. So he's talking to this guy, and he's like, how did you get into this? Where does it? And that's something he eventually got into.
Oh, really?
And he loves it. Good money, quick turn, and without the detail and the focus. He's able to. And I don't want to make it sound like it's a super simple job. You got to know the type of insulation. And
there's reasons why they get paid a lot of money.
Yeah, it's more than just walking in and blowing an installation. But
Right.
my point is, it's a lot less detailed than the other.
Yeah.
And he found something within he always thought he made the statement, I hated construction. He said, I hated that portion of construction.
Yes.
And that's where you're at.
That's exactly where I was at then. I didn't hate it, but
Yeah.
it was just, oh God, do I have to do this again? It was that kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
And when you have that feeling, it doesn't motivate you. When you can find the thing that you really love, it motivates you. So if I go back to when I was like in my 20s and 30s, and if I had had the chance to talk to myself as I am now in my 60s, from that perspective, what would I tell myself? The one thing I would tell myself more than anything else is try some things. Just try things out. Try them out for a day. Try them out for an hour just to see what you think of them. Because if you try to figure them out like you're doing right now, because that's what I used to do. I used to just try to figure out what they would be like. You're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to get any good clues. But if you go try something, you're going to get a lot more information. And that information very often is going to feed into some other little piece of information that comes along simply because you sought the first piece of information. So just try things out, and that's how you find your passion. And when you find your passion, that's when everything gets better.
Well, and also when we allow ourselves. So before this call, before this show, I was on the call with a client, and she has a decision to make about going on this trip with her family on a cruise. And it's a long story, but it didn't really matter. And she said, should I go? And I asked the question, give me the reasons you shouldn't go.
Okay.
And she said, oh, I really can't think of any. Said, now it just boils down to, do you want to or not? Now, not wanting to go is a reason, but if you're looking for a reason to can't go, and there's a whole, and she's like, you're right. I mean, it simply boils down, do I want to go or not go?
That's it.
And so so much of what happens in our jobs, and not to contradict what we've been talking about or contradict what we're talking about, but I do believe that you're in a different place than you were during the hellish IT days too. So even though it's a different area than IT, your perspective for all this stuff is different now. So you have a different energy. You have a different, when you look at something, I think, did I tell this one last week about the Blues Brothers? Did we talk about that? Yeah. Going to the Blues Brothers on a bad date made me hate the Blues Brothers, but
which I love.
Then seeing the Blues Brothers later, realized one of the greatest comedies of all time. And all that mattered was how I was viewing it. So when you're in a mindset that, I hate going to work in general, and I'm no matter what the job is. So some people are in a position, no matter what they're doing, the job is going to be bad because they've already made up their mind the job is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
that matters. When you make up the mind that the job is bad, unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah, you are. And
because of what you decided.
Yeah. And versus the idea of let me, before anybody quits a job, I want them to at least see if the perspective change of the job can help out. So, now, some jobs are just like this guy that works all these hours. He's got to work 6.5 days a week and no days off and do these things. There's no perspective change in that. That's going to be mandatory.
Right. Yeah.
So that's not going to work.
At that point, the choice becomes the one he's dealing with, which is it worth it?
Yes.
I mean, yes, I'm getting all this money, but is it worth it to get that money? Is that price too high a price to pay in order to get the money?
Yeah. And so that's the perspective that we have to look at. And, but a lot of times the lens in which we view the world through determines how we really see it. If you're walking into a situation with a negative mindset, and you have when you had the internal dialogue of yourself going, I don't know what my passion is, or I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what this is. You're speaking, instead of the search, you're speaking that into reality.
Oh yeah. Well, which I was very good at, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, if I had a skill from that period, that was it.
Yeah. Well, and when I got to a place at this point in my life where, it used to be, I can't wait till I don't have to work anymore. I can't wait. I don't have to work anymore, and I work as much, if not more, than I ever have. because I want to work. I don't have to anymore, but I want to. And I also came up with the idea, what would I do if I didn't work? The world would not be a better place.
Your world would be a worse place.
Yeah, I mean, everybody around me would be like, "Oh my God, this it would be terrible."
Yeah, your
Because
breakfast circle would be saying the same thing they said to you about 8-9 months ago. Joel, it's time for you to do something crazy.
yeah. So you got to get back to work because
Right.
I need my brain needs something to chew on. I need a purpose to get up every day. I have my routine that I stick with, and just having a day where I didn't have all that, it would have been it would be terrible. So I love my job. I love working. I also will not stop working. It's something that I'm passionate about. Doesn't mean I can work less. There's things I can do within that if I choose to, but if I'm sitting around, like, what else am I going to do? It's just, I love this and I can't find anything more than I love doing it. Now, if I do, I'll stop working and do that.
Sure. Yeah. And the
But
beauty of it is that because you've had so much success, if you ever wanted to make that decision, that would be an easy decision to make.
yeah,
All you have
oh
to do
yeah,
is you find that you had something else that you really love to do.
yeah, yeah. But like, for example, like one of my friends, he doctor that retired down to Florida near where I have a house down there. And, he fishes every day and he golfs several times a week. And he told me the other day he's going to open up a practice down there, just
Really?
small little private practice, doesn't take insurance, but has very low, just to help people out, very, and he said, this is terrible. This, you sit there and you think your whole life, he doesn't want to get into the grind of corporate
Right.
medicine.
Right.
But he said, just like an old school doctor, there's, get me a little office, charge people $100, $50, whatever the thing's going to be.
Just basically
Basically
hang out a shingle and help a few people.
help a few people, and sort of a sliding scale fee, the people that need it. And he said, just do that for a while. So that would be something that I could do. And he said, I can still fish. I might be open 3 days a week and fish 4 days a week. I still do that. Yeah. But he said, because I told him when it was time, when he retired, I said, I get you want to sell your practice, but you can't not work because it'll drive you crazy. And he laughed at me and he's like, yeah, I need to work. And so
it's one of those words, work. Work is a word that early in our lives, when we're in that job that you're talking about, that we often take, we go for the money.
Right.
The job we don't really love, but the money's great. So we do the job for the money. In that case, work is a 4-letter word.
Absolutely.
It's a dirty word, But when you're doing something that you love and it's something that you're excited about, you're passionate about, it has, first of all, a completely different feeling.
It does.
I mean, it's not even in the same ballpark. It's almost as if there were two different words that were unrelated to each other that both sound the same.
Absolutely. Well,
and when you're doing that kind of work is, that's work. That's like the other 4-letter word, LOVE.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We did a show probably a year ago, maybe a little longer, about the Japanese term ikigai.
Oh yeah.
And the Japanese culture encourages people to find something you're passionate about and do it forever. They have the highest population that are over 100 that are active anywhere in the world, and a lot of that has to do. So when you get up every day and your brain is required, and there's neuroscience has proven this, your brain will just keep doing what it needs to do, because it eventually, the body is sort of programmed as we don't need it. When you don't need your muscle mass, the body wants to save energy. It'll reduce your muscle mass. When you don't have to figure out things as much or work intently with your brain, that the brain will basically atrophy, and it still works, but not at the level it did. But when you keep applying, requiring the brain to work, you're requiring the muscles to work, the body just responds as, okay, it will keep it going. And that's why a lot of people, I've mentioned in previous shows, 2 cases come to life. One's a little different, but greatest college football coach of all time to many people is Bear Bryant.
Bear Bryant, yeah.
And he was at Alabama for years, and when he retired, within 2 weeks he died.
Mm.
The Joe Paterno was
Joe
another
Paterno,
one.
another one. Yeah.
Yeah, forever. He had a little controversy at where he was at that sort of probably the stress killed him too. But the
Mm.
fact that he didn't show up for work and didn't have a reason and didn't have a purpose. But how many people, get up and do that? I have one of my dad's best friend years ago married a woman with young kids when he was 65,
Mm.
and everybody told him that was crazy and he shouldn't do that. And he was there for high school graduations and he lived almost to 90 and
Mm-hmm.
in really good mindset. So
Mm-hmm.
he was always convinced that marrying that family gave him 30 more years, 25 more years of active function because he had to work. He had to take care of them. And
And he was probably right.
yeah,
He
I
probably
believe
it
that.
probably did add to his life, or I would say more accurately, not doing something that would have subtracted from his life.
Yes. And, the worst, one of the worst things that, uh, we can do to the human body, besides like smoking and drinking and some of those real destructive things. One of the worst things you do is a lack of movement, sitting all day. The body is not intended to sit for
Yeah.
hours and hours during the day. It's intended to get up and move, and the more you make it do that, it will adapt. It will, it has no choice, and that keeps the body young, keeps the joints moving.
Yeah.
When you're sitting around all day, everything falls apart.
I'm thinking about a friend of mine who passed away this summer. This a guy who I played music with when I was in junior high school and high school. So I've known him for most of my life. He did have some alcohol issues for a number of different years, and so that definitely affected him. Um, he worked in the medical field. He was a respiratory therapist, and he was very good at it. And he did enjoy the work, uh, but he also pushed himself to do it.
Yes.
It was like we like to think of things in terms of black and white terms. I either love it or I hate it.
Right.
That wasn't really the case with him. He liked it. It was important to him. He had love for it, but it also stressed him out. It was
Yes.
both, and it varied from day to day. I don't know that he ever really found anything that he was able to stick with in his life where he just plain loved it, where it was just,
Yes.
or like not 100%, but like 90% plus, that he just absolutely loved it. So when he passed, I mean, it was a little bit of a surprise, obviously, but it wasn't a big surprise because that's the way. I mean, he had spent a large portion of his life running away from things in terms of the alcoholism, and I think there was some drug use in there too. But what was he living for? I remember asking him because there was actually a large gap in time where we lost touch with each other, and it was while I was living in Virginia that I got reconnected with him. My sister found him through Facebook. It turned out I was living in Warrenton, Virginia. He was living in Luray. Well, it's fairly, it's like an hour away from Warrenton, and we discovered, oh, we're real close to each other. So we reconnected and we chatted and had some conversations, played some music together. It was really good. And I could just tell, though, from those conversations, he still hadn't really found what it was that he loved. He had found things that he enjoyed a lot along the way, but he never really found a passion that drove him. So when I heard that he died from cancer, it didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It didn't surprise me at all.
By the way, little ADD moment here. Luray is gorgeous, and
Oh,
Luray
yeah.
Caverns is something that if you've
Oh,
never
yeah.
heard of it, our audience should really go there. It's just amazing. It's beautiful. The whole area, the
Yeah, the
little
Blue Ridge
town.
they're stunning.
Yeah, the area around there, Luray. It's this weird little, beautiful little town.
Yeah.
That's my son and I, Justin, went up there a few times. We go up there and just rent a place, see the caverns, and there's
Mhm.
several little waterfalls around there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place. It really is. So Luray, Virginia, look it up if you've never attended it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was a good segue right there because you're right. It is a beautiful area. In fact, well, all throughout that chain
Oh,
there going,
yeah,
I mean, it's
gorgeous.
just beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But your point to the, when you're the people that are working and your perspective toward, we've talked about this in so many different ways. Your perspective towards anything determines how it affects you.
Yes.
We did a show probably 2 or 3 years ago. This guy wrote a book about, this lady wrote a book called The Upside of Stress.
Mm.
And some people, stress has a healthy benefit. It it doesn't affect the body the same way as stress of other people.
Which is
And
fascinating and also
yeah,
confusing.
it is, because and so where there, if I were to hook you up to a EEG machine to measure your brain waves and the whole body functions and stuff like that, pulse rate, respiration, all the stuff, uh, extreme anxiety and extreme excitement look the exact same thing. It shows up the same way on the EEG, the same way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So with that being said, now that you think about it, if you process that, excitement, nobody ever says excitement is bad for you. Excitement is great. It gives you purpose. You get up, you go. If you're when I was a kid, we would go fishing or hunting on Saturday, and I would be up early automatically, ready to go. I mean, no other, because I was excited about going. Or if I later in life, when I dealt with extreme anxiety, if I got up because I couldn't sleep because of anxiety, that didn't feel healthy. The excitement piece did. So a lot of times your perspective of things has a big influence on the body and the way it responds. The body can distinguish between this is excitement. That's the good side of it. The negative side, it's just sort of like good dopamine and bad dopamine.
Yeah.
Earned dopamine is motivating. It's good for you. Earned dopamine is when you do well at a job, you make a sale, you do good in the gym. The cheap dopamine, the one that's usually porn, scrolling on your phone, gambling, all these activities that drug use, all these activities just that releases dopamine with no effort. One version of releasing dopamine, the earned dopamine, encourages the proper use and development of more dopamine in a good way. Whereas the negative dopamine depletes the brain. It just, you're burning it out. And the body's, your perspective of it has a big influence of things.
That's a really important point. I don't think that gets enough attention. It certainly hasn't gotten enough attention on this show because I don't remember us talking about that one. We probably did at some point. I'm just not remembering it. But it's really important because if you have that, again, it ties into the whole idea of what's your mindset. If your mindset is positive, affirmative about the thing you're doing, you're going to feel good about it and you're going to get the kind of stuff that you want coming out of it. If it's exactly the opposite, the way you've been describing, then you're going to get the opposite of what you really want coming out of it. It's the same activity either way. That's your point. The activity itself is indifferent to what your reaction is to it.
And that's
the reaction is what's driving it.
Yeah, and that's always been, because that's the classical Stoic. That's sort of the basis of Stoicism. How your perspective towards something is not what you look at; it's what you see. Concepts have been around forever, but to see the reward, and the guy Huberman Lab is a podcast where this guy's a neuroscientist that does a podcast, and he's really good. And I heard this concept about the cheap dopamine and the earned dopamine, and he has a lot of backing of scientific data, which I don't know. This is his stuff, but
it's intuitive. I mean, it kind of makes sense that the data would be there.
Exactly, and I know it in my life. The dopamine that comes, from heavy weightlifting, from just all the great stuff in my life, the accomplishing stuff. That's earned dopamine. The body loves that. It's great for the brain. Cheap dopamine depletes the body. It's negative. It often comes with a cortisol release because it's the whole, and the body somehow doesn't. Your perspective dictates your reality. I say that probably every week we do a show,
right.
But also your perspective dictates your response, how the body responds to events.
Boy, how your body responds to is going to be a big piece of it, because we often feel like and believe that the way our body responds is how we actually think about it.
Yes.
When it's actually the opposite. That's what your point is.
That's my point. Your perspective of all of this is what really matters of everything. I mean, you get up every day, and I know I annoy people with this concept, and I'm happy to do so. But
it's one of your passions in life.
yeah, I do enjoy that part too. But seriously, I spend my mornings preparing to walk out the door, excited about the day, what I have to do. I'm looking forward to my workout. I have it all set up, and I look at my day, and I'm like, I'm excited about my day. I don't. There's not a day that I have to go to work. There's a day I get to go to work every day. I get to go to the gym. I don't view the gym as anything, but it's just my reward system. That's my play. I've conditioned myself to love the gym. And then when I get home at night, I have a million things I could be doing. I have options to do things. It really changes your life. So your perspective, when I constantly am saying your perspective dictates reality, I'm not kidding. It's your whole world is how you view it. I know a friend that struggles financially all the time, just all the time. And her focus is simply on struggling financially. It's
I
all
know
she
that
can talk
feeling.
about.
Yeah.
And I try to, and I've been through it. You've been through it.
Oh yeah.
So I don't, I try to offer my help, but I also realize she doesn't understand. She doesn't buy into it. So she's like, well, none of this helps me get money. None of this helps me get money. None of this helps me get money. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, you're at some point when you're ready to listen, this will give you an opportunity, maybe see it a little differently. But she just doesn't buy into it. But that's her entire dialogue. If I ask her how you're doing, man, the bills, they're killing me. All these bills. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry.
Well, you know what? You're bringing to mind a really important point that came up in the earlier podcast that I did with my guest today. My guest is a coach in the field of sexuality, helping people deal with all kinds of sexual issues. And one of the talking points that we addressed toward the end of the podcast was how so much of what we talk about in life has a black and white nature to it, but that life itself is not black and white, that it's
Right.
gray, and it has various levels of gray. And we don't give a lot of attention to that.
Right.
But it really is an important piece. So, I mean, I'm thinking back to what did I do? Well, I did a podcast. That's one of the ways I helped to get out, and you helped me get out too, and which I appreciate. But I also did something else. I left behind black and white thinking, because black and white thinking was really working very strongly against me.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize how hard it was, but it was really hitting me hard. And when I started appreciating the gray areas of all the different topics that we talk about here on the show, all the things that were going on in my life, all the good things that were going on, all the bad things that were going on, when I started looking at the gray areas and appreciating the grayness of them, not just the grayness of them, but how the grayness could show me that, yes, I have for issue X or for situation X, I have a relatively overall negative perception. But if I can just find some of the positives in it, now I'm seeing some grayness, because there's all these negatives on one hand and some of these positives here. And now it's no longer black. Now it's a dark gray moving in toward a medium gray, or perhaps even eventually to a light gray. That's the process. We have often talked about it in terms of little baby steps, taking baby steps to get there.
Yes.
Baby steps are really just a way of getting into the gray area.
Absolutely. Being able to with those incremental changes or changing in perception, really, in actions that will move you from, black and white thinking usually keeps people stuck in general.
That's right.
Yeah. And everything's falling apart. No chance of getting better. It's just it's going to keep there. And so again, that tends to be what you do. That's what you attract. That brings that to the table versus just seeing things a little differently. What could this possibly happen, or whatever it is for the situation? But it's being able to not react. The reactivity of how when something happens and we react in such a negative way, that just summons all the negative stuff too. The emotional guidance scale is at play there. So the law of attraction, as we say every week, is not built on what you think. It's built on what you feel. So when you're feeling that way and you're reinforcing it with your dialogue or your belief system, black and white, that's all that can give you. It's not going to be able to give you anything else until you allow it.
The astonishing thing is that when you finally do start to play with the gray, especially if you've been dealing with a lot of black,
yes,
you start moving some of the black into the dark gray areas.
Yes.
It's astonishing once you start that process how quickly you move through to the other end of the gray area.
completely.
You don't usually stay. I mean, it is possible to start with black and then move to very dark gray and stay in very dark gray. That is possible to do, but it's not common. Once you start making that shift, doesn't take all that much extra to get to medium gray. I mean, it actually happens fairly quickly, and it can be so quick that it's actually disorienting. Like, what the hell just happened?
Well, the more you do it, the more you move, the easier moving becomes. So
exactly,
I love that statement. You've been assigned this mountain to prove it can be moved.
Yeah.
I like that. And in my mind, it took me years to move the first mountain. That was exhausting. Now the mountains just get out of the way. There's no effort.
Joel's coming. Get out of the way.
Yeah, it's like, there's no hope for here. Let's just get out of the way. But moving the mountain at first, it took everything I had and took years because I believed it was going to do that. And now moving mountains it's not even challenging anymore.
Which is why the whole micro step approach is so effective.
Yes,
because that micro step
I break one of the things that I really, as you know, I'm a big believer. Atomic Habits discusses this. Mel Robbins talks about this in 5-Second Rule to some degree. But the incremental steps in life, if you don't know what to do, one thing I love about AI, and I give people the prompts. If you have an idea, throw any idea to AI and say, give me an outline of the step-by-step process I need to do. And it will give you and all you got to do is and if you need even more detail, break it down even more. Keep breaking it down. So only do the next step. Don't look at the rest of the outline, just the next step. And before you know it, it's such an easy way to do it.
I'll tell you a little bit of a hack that I figured out working with AI, because I'm using AI, as you know, to write code. Because I really lost all interest in writing code. I to this day, I still don't want to write code. I want to create these AI projects. I don't want to have to write the code.
Right.
So I'm getting the AI to do it. And there are lots of challenges that are involved with trying to do that. But along the way, as this whole field that I'm working on is currently called vibe coding. In fact, apparently vibe coding is the word of the year. That's the one that I forget, one of the major publications decided that's the #1 new word of the year, vibe coding, which is odd because it's actually 2 words, but that's another thing. But vibe coding, one of the things that it has showed me is how to understand how AIs think, if you will, what their artificial intelligence, what's the thought process like. And you mentioned just now the idea of the outline and how you can get a deeper outline and so forth. That's actually one of the cool things about AI, because AI will start from a particular perspective, like a certain distance from, you're focusing on something. The AI is focusing on X, and it'll be like from either 100 feet or 1,000 feet or 10,000 feet. It'll pick, say, 1,000 feet, and it'll give you that perspective. And then, like you said, if you ask for a list of things to do, a step-by-step list, it'll give you that list in that 1,000-foot perspective. And then you say, well, okay, going on a 100-foot perspective, what does the list look like then? It'll take that same list and it'll create all these little sub-lists within those lists.
Absolutely. Yes.
And you can do the same thing going backward too. You can say, well, I don't fully grasp the whole thing. Show it to me from 10,000 feet. And so it'll take a step back and it'll give you a 10,000-foot view of what those lists look like.
Absolutely.
The perspective that generates, I mean, you talk about using AI to your benefit. That can help you reshape your brain just by asking the AI to show you how to understand the list making at different levels.
Absolutely. And, when I use it, with my younger guys in particular, they're really good at it. But just whatever, most people with ADHD or ADD have the ability to take a step. The problem gets lost when you look at how big the picture is. So if step 1 is to write your name. Step 2 is to get a phone number. Just get the phone number. Don't do anything until the next step. That incremental. And also that this same strategy applies to building wealth. If you want to build wealth, start with whatever money you got, and you take $10. You got $10, you put it in a S&P 500 fund, and every week you do that till you have a little more. Any extra money you put in there, and then you get incremental. It builds up, it builds up, and builds up. It is a guaranteed way to success.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's an excellent point, and it also shows how you can use a focus or even an ADHD focus to your advantage to take incremental steps.
And that
Because we don't think about that, do we? When we think about focus, we think, oh no, you have to focus on just this one thing. That's it. But focus doesn't have to work that way.
Well, and that's why these outlines and steps are perfect for the ADD brain. It's because it craves that, and it's the up until the last 2 or 3 years, and I've always been a big fan. We talked recently about the trades, people going into the trades instead of traditional college, and I am my son, by the way, is now an apprentice for a HVAC company. Justin, I'm very proud of him. He
Good for
finally
him.
took that leap. So
congratulations, Justin.
Yeah, he's making $21 an hour, which is good money for someone his age. And the idea that in a year he'll be able to operate on his own, making really good money.
Or HVAC, he'll make a lot more money than that over time.
Absolutely. And then, so when you have that, the formula that I start off these guys, and I've seen this formula repeat. So the ADD brain that will learn a trade, they're really good at learning trades, or step by step, learn the trade, be able to fix it. The apprentice programs are hands-on learning, which is perfect for the ADHD brain, and then be able to do that. So then you get paid, and you take a certain percentage of your money, of your net money, and you put into a Roth IRA in an S&P 500 fund. And that is the formula. And these kids are 20, 21, 22 when they start this. That is a formula that anybody could apply. And by the time they're 50, they're going to be rich. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Yeah. It's an infallible form. And it's something, and then you can build your company, you can eventually hire the people, you don't always have to do the manual part yourself. There's a lot of advantages to it, but these things do well by breaking it down. So I developed these outlines. It's a big program I do now. Like we help my clients develop their outlines for the step by step, and it is one of the greatest tools I've ever found, because it all I got to do each week, what step are you on? I have a copy of where they're at. What step are you on here? Are you stuck on these steps? No or yes. Let me help you get through that. You need to speed up your steps if you can, whatever. But it's infallible. When you do that, it's amazing versus the nebulous broad attack.
Yeah. Well, the one thing you can count on with the nebulous broad attack is that you're not going to hit your target because you don't know what it is.
You don't even know what target is. But when you break it down,
even if you did hit it, you still wouldn't know.
Yeah. But when you have it where it's a measurable amount of effort that you can do and say, this week, and we discuss when I meet clients weekly, how many steps do you think you were going to be able to get through this week? And we'll look at it. We'll set a goal to get through, say, 5 steps this week. I get a text in the middle of the week. One guy recently said, we've set 5 steps. He said, I got through 5 steps in a day, Dave. So I want to shoot for 20 for the week. And in the beginning, some of these steps aren't easy to get through. Usually when you get deeper in the process, the steps are slower. But I get reports during the week. This is a coaching method that is particularly helpful for the ADHD brain.
And that's by design, isn't it? Making those early steps very simple steps.
Of course, because that's a great point. Because I've always liked to set people up for success early. Right. Most people that come to me have a lot of inner dialogue and a lot of history of failing.
Yeah, I know that one. Yes. I'm familiar with it.
Have you ever heard my story? So,
good point. Yeah, I thought of that.
Yeah, epic failure here. So, but the going back to the brain, when you condition the brain to start saying, wait a minute, I got this done. Instead of the dialogue, I can't do anything right. I got that right.
Yes. That's wonderful. That's really a wonderful thing. This also brings up, we only have like a minute or so left, but I want to bring up one last point here. It brings up something that also came up in the earlier show. The idea of course, yeah, it just blanks out of my mind as soon as I say it. Well, then we'll save it for the next show.
Well, it'll pop back in. It'll
probably pop in as soon as we're done with this one. That's
yeah. In fact, I'm expecting in about 7 seconds. Oh, and then you'll remember. So anyway, but
I think what actually happened is I spooked myself because I looked at the clock and I said, "Oh, I got 30 seconds, 25 seconds, 20 seconds."
There you go. Yeah, that did it. But so we'll just when it pops back up, let me know. Make it a topic. But
we'll save it for next week's topic. Yeah, that's what we'll do.
I love how this show went. I like where we started. I like how we got to this place. as always, we end up in a really good, uplifted, positive place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, actually, there's an interesting piece to this too. I started off saying that the show was about detachment as it relates to focus. We spent the entire show on focus. We were focused on focus.
We didn't detach at all.
No.
Huh.
Isn't that interesting? You don't have to focus on detachment in order to focus.
Yeah. Wow. We learned something. Now we know.
But now we know. All right. Good stuff. Thanks, my friend. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.